Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, friends from all across the world. Good afternoon to some of you and good morning to some of you. I welcome you all heartily to this fourth webinar hosted by the India Pulses and Grains Association under our knowledge series. Till date, we have had three webinars in the past. The first being on the policies of the Indian government, the agri reforms. The second with regard to the desi chickpeas or chana. And mind you, this proved to be a very lucky webinar for us in India, because post this webinar, the prices of desi chickpeas started going up, and this was welcomed by the trade. So I hope this time our lentils webinar also does the same, and it helps the trade and industry going forward. The third webinar, which was done by IPGA, was with regard to the Kharif outlook, which again was very successful. And on average, in all the webinars that we hosted, we had almost 800 plus participants from all across the globe. So I think today also we have a full house of participants from all over the trade industry, some VIPs, even from the national trade associations across the globe, and people from the media as well as the press. I believe this is the right time for us to be hosting the webinar for lentils, as by this time Canada has already harvested their crop, Canada being one of the major origins. And a lot of the new crop has started being shipped, and it has been received also in India. Australia has started harvest of their crop for this season, and they will soon be starting to ship their produce. The Indian farmer will very soon go into the seeding of lentils for the Rabi 21 crop. And basically, we are reaching the fag end of our season here in India. So we need guidance. We need a holistic view of lentils going forward. So at this time, I feel this is a very critical time for India, and we need to be informed, and we need to inform our trade, our industry about it too. To discuss all of this and to get the right perspective for the trade and for the industry, this evening we have a very distinguished panel of speakers with us. People who are in their own right very influential, people who matter a lot to the trade, who matter a lot to the industry, and both from the macro and micro level. We have panelists from the government of India, as well as we have panelists from the private trade within our country and from the major origins. Not to waste any more time, and to introduce you with our panelists of the evening, we have with us Dr. S.K. Malhotra, who is the Agriculture Commissioner, Ministry of Agriculture and Farmers Welfare, Government of India. Next, we have on our panel Mr. S.K. Singh, Additional Managing Director of NAFED, India, followed by Mr. Rakesh Khemka, Managing Director of UMA Exports, Calcutta, India, Mr. Rav Kapoor, CEO and Managing Director, ETG Commodities, INC, Canada, Mr. Peter Wilson, MD, Wilson International Trade. Before we start the proceedings of the evening, I would once again like to thank our advertisers for their continued support, for their continued advertising support towards our webinars. These are Srinath Agencies, Govindji Kanji, SIP Dhanashekaran, Navasasyam Dandekar, Sunraj Shipping, 4P International, AgroPure Foods, Sri Lakshmi Trading Corporation, and AK Agri. So thanking all the advertisers once again, I would now like to call upon Dr. S.K. Malhotra. Just to give you a brief background about Dr. Malhotra presently working as Agriculture Commissioner in the Ministry of Agriculture and Farmers Welfare. He has over 30 years of experience as scientist and techno-administrator in National Agriculture Research System. Dr. Malhotra is currently providing leadership in agriculture policy planning, program development, and administration of mission programs such as National Food Security Mission. He is a widely traveled person and has represented India in more than 24 international programs. So Dr. Malhotra, I would like to start with you, and we'd be blessed to have your views. But before you start, just the major points which I think all our participants would be interested in is that we are now approaching the seeding season for lentils. We would like to know the government's intentions and how much would be the estimate for the crop going forward, the seeding intentions, what the output or the crop number you would be foreseeing for the Rabi season, and of course, the policies which you would be looking at. Please start the evening, sir. Welcome.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon, everybody. Good morning, everybody. And even I should say good evening, everybody. So I could guess that many of our colleagues across the world, they are participating in this conference. So first of all, I take this opportunity to convey my thanks to IPGA for such a nice initiative to discuss exclusively on lentil, and this lentil crop assumed importance for India. And as you know that pulses and oilseeds are now priority sector for Government of India, because pulses sector, in fact, if you remember, if you go into the past, you will find that in the year 2015-16, the production level which we were having as a whole for pulses was only 16 million ton against the requirement of 25 million ton of the total pulses. So then I got the chance to lead the mission, National Food Security Mission for pulses, and I was asked to prepare the roadmap. Accordingly, we prepared the roadmap, and then National Food Security Mission pulses program was started, and now today we are near self-sufficiency, I should say. But there are few crops, one or two crops I would like to mention. One is lentil, another is yellow pea. Sometimes we face problem, but sometimes we also experience a kind of little shortfall in case of urad bean, which also happened this year, and sometimes for tur also. But anyway, lentil to discuss the lentil crop today we are here. So I would like to mention here that lentil is grown during Rabi season. We call in our vernacular language Rabi season, which is a winter season. And during this winter season, Rabi, this lentil is cultivated, and farmers, they have started doing sowing, and sowing figures have started coming to us, and till today about 3.7 lakh hectare area. I mean 37,000 370,000 hectare area has been sown so far for lentil against 1.4 million hectare area, because this is a target which we have fixed for this year, and we are hopeful that this target will be covered, because the speed of sowing is more in comparison to last year. So about I should mention here that that in comparison to last year, if we see the sowing figures, it is just double than the last year on the same date. So speed of sowing is more because our reservoirs are full, and our moisture level whatsoever we need, that is available, and about 120 water reservoirs are available in the country, the major reservoirs, and they 80% of the reservoirs, they are 80% of the reservoir, they have full capacity to 80%. Again, I am telling. So here we are very comfortable from the moisture point of view, and the moisture plays the greater role. And this time the rainfall which we received during the Kharif season, I mean during the monsoon season, so that was very excellent, and 9% excess rainfall was received, and that has recharged our water reservoirs. So we are confident that this time area coverage will be more, and the target which we have fixed to achieve, that is around 1.6 million ton for this lentil. And lentil, we have already discussed with the states, all principal secretaries, we discussed, principal secretaries agriculture, they were available, and we discussed in presence of Honorable Agriculture Minister that we need to promote these pulses, and lentil in particular was discussed. And then a few decisions were taken that one point was that we need to promote new varieties, and that the seed of the new varieties which are high yielding in nature, the seed of such varieties are required to be made available to the farmers. And now the seed has reached to the block level, to the micro level, seed has been made available. And that's why our speed of sowing has increased from this year. And another important point is now we are promoting biofortified varieties. Two new varieties have been released for lentil. One is Pusa Ageti Masur. That variety is rich in iron content. 65 ppm iron content is available in this variety, and this is just double than the varieties which are presently adopted by the farmers. Then another new variety which we are now promoting, it is high yielding in nature, and this is a variety IPL 220. It again contains 73 ppm of the iron. So now we are promoting such varieties, and again this variety contains zinc content of 51 ppm. So I would like to hear urge to the industry that if they can come forward to take up these varieties with more incentive to the farmers, because they are biofortified and they contain more nutrition content, micronutrient point of view. This will address the issue. So here, this is one intervention. Another is that here coverage will be definitely more, because we have a special focus on lentil. So just before entering the discussion with you, I was discussing with the Niti Aayog, where the meeting is still in process related to long-term policy framework on supply chain for pulses, where just this lentil was also discussed. So now so picture is clear, and the motive of Government of India is also clear before you, that government is putting focus on such small crops where volume was less, but it has its importance here in the country. So our production will more come from 4 states. You know that you are already aware that there are 4 major states which have been identified to put focus on those 4 states. And then targeting rice fallow area program we have recently started, because our rice fallow area that remains fallow after harvesting. So we are targeting it, and area cover, more area we are going to cover through that one. And lentil is also one of the alternate crop which has been provision for cultivation by the farmers. So in broad sense, this is the picture which I just wanted to tell you, that this is a canvas of lentil cultivation in the country. And I would like to definitely hear from our other stakeholders, partners, industries, that what kind of scenario is emerging at the global level. And as Mr. Anurag also mentioned, that now already harvesting is over from Canada and Australia. They have just started, but our sowing has also just started, and the figures which we have received related to this sowing progress, these are very encouraging.
Thanks, Dr. Malhotra. I would like to ask a couple of questions. Basically, you did say that the number this year, the seeding acreage was almost 3.7 lakh hectares, and it's a substantial jump compared to last year. So according to you, we of course are gung-ho about it, but have you considered the weather going forward? What is the IMD advising you about? Because we are hearing that we may have a harsher winter this year compared to other years because of the onset of La Nina phenomenon. So have you taken this into account, or what would be the, what would your ideas be on this weather phenomenon and how this would affect the crop in India particularly?
Well, first we need to understand, as I mentioned that 3.7 lakh hectare area has been sown so far. So it means, but our target is for 14.4 lakh. So this will be achieved. Still sowing window is available with us. So full month is available with us, and even up to 15th December, farmers, they do sowing. So here, as per IMD report, the results are very encouraging. And first point is that here sometimes this cold weather, sometimes it provides, it does harm to the crops. Frost damage also occurs. So this time it has been told that that frost occurrence may occur. So we are alarming the farmers that they need to adopt all such measures in case of occurrence of the frost or frost damage, if at any instance it occurs. So there is a complete package of practices to safeguard the crop from the frost that we also guide to the farmers. The IMD report is available with me. Today only I took the review and I discussed with the IMD, and IMD here has also shown very good results, and then they have mentioned that fairly widespread rainfall will also occur during this season, particularly in the Tamil Nadu area, and then slightly in Madhya Pradesh, little one. But here, wheresoever lentil is cultivated, that is cultivated in the irrigated areas, where at least they are having, they have some irrigation facilities, because lentil again requires very little irrigation. 1 or 2 irrigations are sufficient. That's why our production levels are less, because farmers, they grow this lentil crop in the constant areas where water availability is little less, because it is considered a little hardy crop in comparison to other ones. So we recommend to the farmers that they should adopt this mulching so that water is conserved and soil and water conservation practices are adopted. So as per IMD report, I think we shall be having a favorable climatic condition, and those conditions will be favorable, but mostly damage occurs due to the wilt. Wilt is also one of the major problem. Rust, wilt, and root rot, these are the 3 major problems. So we have already sensitized the farmers that they need to adopt timely measures as and when any kind of incidents of such diseases are reported, and they need to adopt immediate the package of practices as well as protection measures for safeguarding the crop.
Thank you, Dr. Malhotra. I believe the figure which you have given, that we are looking at a crop size of almost 1.6 million tons or 16 lakh tons going forward. This is a very, very promising figure, and I'm sure that this is good news for the Indian farmer as well as for the Indian government, which has, as you said rightly, over the last 4 years been striving very hard to make our country self-sufficient in pulses. And now we'll invite Mr. S.K. Singh, who's the additional managing director of NAFED, to come in. Just to give you a brief background about Singh Saab, Mr. Singh is additional managing director of NAFED, an autonomous national cooperative marketing federation under the Ministry of Agriculture and Farmers Welfare, Government of India. NAFED is responsible for procurement of pulses and oilseeds at minimum support price, as well as the management of the national buffer system, the stock of pulses, under the Department of Consumer Affairs, Government of India. With more than 20 years of experience of commodity markets, particularly pulses and oilseeds, Mr. Singh is actively associated in formulation of Indian government schemes in procurement, storage, and distribution of pulses and oilseeds. His initiatives conceptualize the maiden creation of buffer stocking of pulses and distribution of pulses at affordable prices in the welfare schemes of the Government of India as well as the state governments for the benefit of consumers, including their nutritional requirements. Singh Saab, welcome, good evening, and we are all looking forward to your views and your opinion, as we value them very, very highly. We do know that you have a very delicate work, because you have to balance between the farmer and the consumer, where you have to promise the maximum returns to the farmer, but the minimum prices in the hands of the consumers. So you have a very, very balancing act to play. And welcome, and please do share your views. But before you start, I would have some questions to you and would like clarity on these points. Number one, most importantly, of course, Dr. Malhotra has given the figures already of the crop, but as regards the procurement policy of the government of India, how much of it would you be going for procurement? Like last year, you were given instructions of having a buffer of almost 150,000 tons in lentils, but you did not procure this because the markets were most of the time above MSP. Seeing the crop this year, and if the MSP prices, if the prices of lentils post-harvest are above MSP, would you still be buying or procuring them? We need clarity on this and your points going forward. Please do comment. You're on mute, sir.
Thank you, Anurag. Thanks, India Pulses and Green Association, for the initiatives taken for organizing these webinars. And this is the third webinar that I'm in. What a chance. Only a few hours back, we had an extensive discussion on the restructuring of buffer taken by Secretary Department Consumer Affairs, followed by the insights given by Dr. Malhotra, the Agriculture Commissioner of Government of India, and the panel of enlightened persons from the trade and industry discussing the pulse, and the most important pulse right now in terms of supply constraint, that is the red lentil, or which we call masoor in India. As aware, and we have been discussing in various forums, that the last 5 years had seen a different picture of production, procurement, supply management of pulses in India, a country which saw a crisis in 2015-16, had the might of distributing 1 kg of pulses to 19.5 crore families, or I would say 195 million families, for continuous 9 months, and we still have sufficient pulses to distribute even more months as may be required by Government of India. Therefore, the availability of pulses is not an issue. Maybe there are certain imbalances between supply and demand of some of the pulses in India. Red lentil is one of them. As most of you are aware, West Bengal, northeastern states, Bihar, and a part of UP, they are majorly masoor, or I would say red lentil consuming states. And the demand is specific. And if we really talk of an average demand, to my expectation, it works out to a level of 1.9 to 2 million tons. And the production figure, which has been intimated by Dr. Malhotra, is 1.6 million ton. Therefore, there would be a certain demand continuing, which may be met by imports. I may inform the audience here that the focus which Government of India had in the years 2016, 17 and onwards of enhancing the pulse production in India, same kind of intense focus is on increasing the area under red lentil. May I again inform you that the states of Bihar, UP, Jharkhand, Assam, and West Bengal, there we had a poor procurement system. This year, we have made an advance arrangement that on account of procurement, no farmer would be deprived of the MSP declared by Government of India. The MSP also has been raised substantially to rupees 5,100. So, and the market has also prevailed above 5,100 to motivate the farmers to sow more. So you have all the pluses of additional acreage and intent of the farmer to grow more. We have sufficient funds, infrastructure, and will to ensure that in case the prices drop below 5,100, which should not be the case, we will buy every grain available even at the farm gate. We have had advanced discussion with the government of Jharkhand, government of Bihar, government of West Bengal. We are aware of the infrastructure problems, but we have taken advanced steps. And believe me, if we are successful in ensuring MSP to the farmers this time of red lentil, next year, Mr. Malhotra would be glad to inform that we are sowing a size which is capable of producing 2 million metric tons in India itself. It's a matter of a year or two. The information which he gave about the seeds, which again are the advanced seeds, the propagation is fast, and Government of India through the KVKs, that is called Kisan Vikas Kendras, they have taken advanced preparation. As regards the success in production and maintenance of buffer, the results are before you. I need not reiterate once again. Even for the supplies under PMJKY, we had run short of Masoor dal, and that is the reason why Mr. Rakesh Khemka, main farm in West Bengal, we had to shift to moong dal followed by chana whole. And well, distribution of chana whole has created history. It has created a separate demand. And in fact, that is the reason you had the stability in the prices of chickpeas in India, which had its consequent effects all over the world. The states, besides the PMJKY, they have introduced many schemes which are targeted to benefit the poor consumers. Red lentils are much in demand from Tripura, Assam, Nagaland, Manipur, I would say West Bengal, Bihar and Jharkhand. They are depending this time on chickpeas. So overall, what I see that there shall be growth in production. The average production, if I'm to calculate for the last 5 years, this I had done an exercise for the last meeting that we had, has been 1.25 million tons in India. This is the average of the government data on production. Maybe industry may differ. And that is the reason why we had large dependence on imports. And that's the reason why the cut in duty came to facilitate the imports. And much of the import has happened. It has stabilized the prices. I don't think that it's pinching the consumers as of now. Farmers are happy that they are seeing a consistent price above MSP. All put together, I hope that better days for red lentils would also come, as came for the other pulses. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Here I would like to ask you a couple of questions. Number one, what would be the stock of lentils with NAFED as on date, sir? And Secondly, as you said that you would be definitely going in to buy as much of lentils if the markets go below MSP. But as per the government mandatory numbers, is 150,000 tons still the same figure which will be there for the lentils buffer going forward for the next year, sir?
We are going for the restructuring of a buffer. So it all depends on the supply and demand situation. That's regarding the future procurement, which you're talking of. As regards your first question, I did answer that we had run out of Masoor for PMJKY supplies.
Mm-hmm. So you are very, very excited about us having a crop size of at least 1.6 million tons, and with the MSP being increased to 51,000 for the new season. So the farmer should be happy, and they should have no cause of concern. And as Dr. Malhotra also said, because of the high yielding seeds which we are going to use next year, we shall be seeing a crop of almost 2 million tons, which should be making us self-sufficient provided our consumption levels remain the same. Am I right, sir?
Yes, perfectly. You have seen it in other pulses. See, what happened? Farmer wants an MSP. He wants a consistent market. And it is the interest of the market as well as the government to provide him an environment where he doesn't have to fear whether he will get the right price for his produce. And that you're seeing in sale of a gram. What are we trying to achieve? We are trying to achieve, or we are trying to maintain a market which on itself gives MSP to the farmer. And you're seeing the market is heading towards a level of 5,800 to 6,000 in very near future. When the next crop of Rabi comes, the market itself will give MSP of 5,100 either for Masoor or for gram to the farmer. Why should there be a government intervention?
Correct.
And that's the most logical, scientific, and a balanced environment.
Another thing, last question before I go on to the next speaker, sir, with regard to the import duties on lentils. What is your idea as to, we of course have been given under the new notification that until 31st December, the duties will be at 11%. What is your take on the duties post 31st December? Do you think the duties would remain the same, or to protect the interests of the Indian farmers, the government could go back to 33% as it was earlier?
Well, that's for the market and the government to decide mutually.
That was a very diplomatic answer, sir.
No, it's a fact. It's a fact.
Thank you. We'll come again once we start discussing and we have an open house. Now I would like to invite Mr. Rakesh Khemka, who is the managing director of UMA Exports Limited, Calcutta. And this was established in the year 1988. UMA Exports is a government-recognized export house, and they are into exports of rice, sugar, spices, and they are importing mostly pulses. Rakesh is having an experience of 20 years in international trading business, and the company has grown from strength to strength under him and his management with his vision, focus, dedication, and hard work. And he has also built a solid reputation in the international markets. Rakesh ji, welcome. Please come in and give us your views as you are a private player in the trade. I'm sure there are a lot of fellow traders who want your views, who would like to know what your thought process is, what your views are with regard to the markets at present and also markets going forward.
Thank you, Anurag ji. I'm really feeling privileged for being part of this panel. And good morning to Mr. Kapoor in Canada. Good evening to everyone. And since Mr. Singh and Mr. Malhotra, I'm really happy that government is so, coming out with well-balanced policies about lentils. Like lentils has become now, it is one of the majorly traded pulses and is being imported into India. And basically demand, last year, the annual demand for pulses being imported into India was somewhere around 0.7 to 0.75 million tons we have imported last year. And
could you repeat? I'm sorry, Rakesh. What was the number you just said? I'm sorry.
It was somewhere around 0.75 million tons, like 1920.
Correct.
I'm talking of reds. I'm talking of reds.
We are discussing only reds. Yes. Okay.
Yeah, I'm talking of reds, and we expect annual demand of 1.9 million tons to 2 million tons annually into India. And as per the government data, the production in 2020 Rabi season, it was somewhere around 1.1 million ton, but the trade perspective was around 0.7 to 0.75 million ton. There was a gap of around 0.4 million tons. So this is a big gap, And what I feel that the trade perspective and government data, should be almost same. Otherwise, it's getting very tough for us to analyze the things. And means, the government policies also depend upon the production levels. And, government's free distribution of chana has free distribution of chana has shifted the demand of lentils into chana, and people have shifted. Low income group has shifted to this chana from lentils in the eastern India also, and government has supplied chana instead of lentils, as stated by Mr. Singh. Due to lower production this year, as per trade perspective, import dependency has increased, and that's why government has reduced duty in the month of June from 30% to 10%. And again, government has extended the duty decrease till 31st December. I take an opportunity to appeal to the government that they have charged duty in between 1st of September to 17th of September at around 30%, 33% including surcharge. I appeal them to refund that amount, because certain importers which have paid the duty, they have lost heavily due to this period, because they couldn't kept the cargo in the godown, and all of a sudden the duty was decreased by the government. So they have faced heavy losses. So I would appeal the government to refund the duty which they have taken only for 17 days. And the amount involved is not much for government of India, but due to the travels and the recent policy of government of India, distribution totally to import traders are left without any options, because in Tur Desh quota and Udar Desh quota, traders are left only with import of lentils. And we importers need long-term policies, which is basically we need annual plans of the pulses policies into India. Bi-monthly policies are not helping our traders. We are unable to plan our imports. We are unable to plan our trade. Like I tell you, November, December, no importer into India has booked the cargo for November, December shipment, because from 1st January, everyone is anticipating the increase in duty. And if we buy anything November, December, if the cargo arrives in January, again, we have to pay the higher duty. And we don't know what government will do. On 15 January, suppose the government declares duty, everyone will be at loss.
Rakesh,
so people are running away from this.
I would like to interrupt here, Rakesh. I think this is not the proper forum to at least discuss the refund of duties. I do agree that as a trader, as an importer, you are an aggrieved party, and this continuous flip-flop on the part of the government may cause you certain losses, but let this be discussed in some other forum and not today. Here we are predominantly gathered to discuss and to have your views more about the current market scenario, the Indian crop going forward, and how the prices should be for the new crop. Like as you said, that the total imports were almost 0.75 million tons. As per the data which I would have with me, I believe in the books we have about 0.9 million tons or 9 lakh tons which should be coming into India by the end of January. So
yes, that is for, you're correct, Mr. Anurag. That is for this 2020-21. I'm talking of 0.75 million last year, 1920.
Okay, correct.
And I think it will, yes, this year the imports will be higher as the production was very low in India. And I suppose that by the end of March, our import will be around maybe 1.05, 1.05 million tons.
Okay. Yeah, that
Around
is
10 lakh tons. And
right.
it all depends upon the government policy. What will be the government policy? We are just waiting and watching what will the government policy. Our total trade and imports will depend upon that. But I mean, I agree this is not the forum where we can discuss, but we can appeal to the government that at least you give us an annual policy so that we can plan our imports. I understand it is very tough for the government. I understand their problems because the prices are not stable in India, and they are compelled to come up with the policy, with the immediate policy for bringing down the prices and making the market, getting the market stabilized at lower prices and making the inflation low. But at the same time, when we are unable to plan, I can appeal to the government that yes, you please at least make a not annual. You can go for a 6 month policy, so that we can plan our imports. Because as you know, from Canada, it takes at least maybe 3 months, for the cargo to arrive. We buy. Suppose no one sells immediate shipment. They sell maybe this is November. We can get December, January shipments. And if we come to know the policy of the government late, it is very tough for us to trade.
Rakesh, just to not answer your question, but just for information, the government is seized of this, and all these policy changes which you are having. See, we had a period when since 2003 up to 2015, things were totally open. You know what happened in 2015?
Yes.
So the situation made the government to sit up and again see things that domestically things are done, the creases are properly ironed out. Yes, we appreciate your concern. Very soon, I expect, along with you, I too have that kind of expectation. In our interactions with the government officials, we raise this issue, and very soon you will have solution to all this.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your.
Thank you, Mr. Singh. Rakesh ji, again to come back to you, I would like to ask, like with the port prices ruling around levels of 51 to 52 rupees at the major ports, and with even the new MSP recommended at 51,000 by the government, what is your price outlook going forward for the new crop? Where do you feel that the market should remain? Considering a couple of things that as of now, as Mr. Singh said, the government, that is NAFED, is holding negligible or no stock, and private stocks, which I've been told across India are approximately 3 lakh tons, and maybe another 100 or 150,000 tons in the pipeline. That would mean, say, a max of 400 to 450,000 tons. And with an annual consumption of what Singh Saab said, about 1.9 million tons, which would mean a monthly, at least minimum consumption of 150,000 tons. So we still have the months of November, December, January, February, 4 months. Whereas consumption-wise, it would be about 600,000 tons against an inventory of almost 400 to 450,000 tons. So seeing these scenario and these numbers, what is your take on the prices going forward?
See, from till December, if the duty is not imposed post December, I think till December the prices will remain somewhere around 51 to 53 in the port areas of western ports, Mundra, Bombay, Hazira. And if the government imposed duty, then it will have an impact, and there will be increase of 2-3 rupees, maybe 4 rupees a kilo in the port areas. And post harvest, considering the numbers given by Mr. Malhotra, and if the climate is suitable for the production, and if everything goes right, by the Almighty's blessing for India, I think taking 1.6 million tons as a production data, I think the prices will come down in the port area to 50 rupees post harvest in India.
Mhm. So
Even if the government support, even if the government continues, they are taking at the MSP of 51. Then also, I think the area-wise, like West Madhya Pradesh, East Rajasthan, and all that, basically, and the means Bihar area, they will come around. Even they will. If the production is more, farmer will tend to sell at lower MSP to the traders also. Prices lower than the MSP to traders also.
but then again, looking at what the government's intentions are, that to maximize returns to the farmers and that the markets remain good, I feel that mostly for most of the part, the government, as Mr. Singh said, they would be coming in as major buyers if prices go below MSP. And to protect the farmers, I'm sure the immediate attention or the immediate intention of the government post December would be obviously to increase the duties, to bring them back to 33% to protect the farmers. Because as on date, if we calculate more or less the CNF prices into India, they are just at levels around MSP. So there's not a gap, not much of a gap. That's what I feel. So do you agree with me on this count?
I hope so. Government impose the duty on 1st January because it will stop dumping of lentils into India. Otherwise, in the past we have seen, many companies have dumped lentils into India, seeing the duty structure, and our farmers get,
Have you really seen dumping of lentils? Because I don't feel so. Because
yes, in 2016-17, the opening stock in the harvesting season of India was around 0.7 million tons.
yes,
In different ports.
Yeah, but
I think it is dumping. It is dumping only.
But
basically, see, yeah, and government has to take all those into consideration, and I hope so. Government comes with a policy which is favorable for our farmers, support our farmers, and at the same time traders also, because we
Rakesh, you have answered your question yourself. You have answered your question yourself.
Thank you.
See,
thank you, Rakesh.
First we are in.
No, I tell you. See,
first we are Indians, Mr. Singh.
see what happens. Why did these measures happen? Just because what you said, here lies the answer.
No,
One,
Mr. Singh, that is
second
okay.
thing,
I appreciate the government. I appreciate the government move. I really appreciate. I always appreciate what you people are doing for supporting the farmers and everything. But the only point which I want to make is we need long-term policy.
No. See, long-term policies would come, but there is something called open book test, and then one is where the invigilator moves around the room and sees that you don't do the cheating. So why don't you do the open book test?
Very true.
Agree with you.
That explains. That explains. And when the invigilator is tight, then you say that why does he snatch the copies when the time is over?
Well, you can say that, Mr. Singh. I agree with you. I cannot just, oppose you on every point, but you are right.
Come. Self-discipline has to come. Otherwise, it needs disciplining.
But at the same time, Mr. Singh, I tell you, like India being the biggest importer of lentils, we can, like since the prices are totally directly dependent on India, the international prices are directly dependent on India.
I'm not talking of lentil. I'm talking overall.
No, today I'm talking of lentils only, sir.
No. See, if somebody has dumped, then somebody has received.
Yes, exactly.
If somebody has dumped, somebody has received. Now, coming to other question, I have one question. You said that 0.75 million is the production, the trade estimate against government estimate of 1.4. You say that 0.75 is again the import. That makes it to 1.5. The demand is 1.9 to 2. So there again, you have a deficit of 0.4.
No. Sorry, sir. Sorry to interrupt you, sir. I said 0.75 is the trade estimate for production in 2020-21.
Okay.
And I told till January 0.9 will be imported. 0.75 red lentils imported was I quoted of 1920 last year.
Okay. Okay.
And
so
this
what do you
year
see? What do you see the deficit side of from November down to say February, March, when the harvest would start?
Anurag rightly quoted, we need around 1.5 lakh tons, 0.15 million tons monthly. And till February, we'll be needing November, December, like it will be around, we'll be needing 0.6 million tons, around 6 lakh tons till February end. And we have stock of around 0.45 million tons, 4.5 lakh tons. So we'll be needing another, I think at least 0.1 million ton. That is 1 lakh ton, 100,000 tons we'll be needing it.
That can very well come before. That can very well come before December.
Hope so. Yes, that will very well come before December, and I hope so. It comes.
And there's an incentive. And there's an incentive to come before December.
So indirectly, you are saying yes, the post December there will be due to increase.
No, I don't say that. I don't say that. See what you have. See, the point is, what is in front that has to be believed, and what is to come, you never know.
Exactly, sir. Exactly.
Okay, gentlemen, I think we should take this forward, and we'll discuss this once we have an open house post individual discussion.
Sorry for interrupting.
No, not at all. I would now like to invite Mr. Rav Kapoor to join us, and just to give you his brief background. Rav is the Chief Executive Officer and founder at ETG Commodities INC Canada, one of North America's largest specialty crops exporters. Rav has been working in C-level roles in the sector for over 20 years and has unparalleled experience in commodity export negotiation, change management, and stakeholder relations. Having spent the last 14 years in commodity trading for pulses and special crops, ETG Commodities has grown to become an indispensable partner to producers and the Canadian agribusiness industry. Prior to ETG, Rav held leadership roles at Broadband Commodities and Eximcan. Rav has served on several boards over the years, including the Canadian Special Crops Association from 2012 to 2018, and as a member of Export Trade Group's Pulses Vertical Executive Committee since 2015. As CEO, one of Rav's key priorities is to further strengthen the company as a catalyst of change for the Canadian food agriculture by connecting producers and agribusiness to local, national, and global markets. Rav holds a postgraduate degree in international business from the University of Guelph in Canada. Welcome, Rav.
Thank you, Anurag. It's a pleasure to be with all of you and with all the distinguished panelists. And a very good morning from Canada to all the attendees. I'll just try to share my screen so that you guys can, Anurag, can you look at?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So thank you IPGA for having me here and trying to present the perspective from Canada. We just finished our harvest, as Anurag mentioned, and I want to just walk everyone through what ended up happening. And then if you have any questions, I'd love to take the questions at the end once I'm done giving you some insights into what's happening on the Canadian side. So as you all might know, one second, it's not.
Rav, I'd just like to interject one for a moment. I would request all the members and the panel, all the participants who are involved in this webinar, if you have any questions, could you please post them in the Q&A box and not on the chat box? Please, I repeat, please post all questions in the Q&A box and not on the chat box. Thanks, Rav. Please continue.
Thank you. So as just a quick fact about Canada, Canada is one of the largest producers of pulses worldwide and exporters. We don't have a big population to feed here. So majority of the pulses grown are exported to the world with over 150 countries. Canadians, world largest producer and exporter of pulses, making up 35% of the global pulses business, which is traded. We seed about 9 to 10 million acres every year of pulses, which comes to about 6 to 7 million tons of production. India, United States, and China currently represent the largest export markets for us, followed by Turkey, the Mediterranean, and European Union, and then South America. One of the competitive advantages in Canada is, of course, the land sizes, the economies of scale, and the public-private partnership into seed development, into helping the farmers understand what are the different seeds and how we can help the seed varieties to get better and better to fight diseases, moisture content, and yield better. This map gives you a snapshot of where majority of Canadian lentil production is. Alberta being a small part of the Canadian lentil production, Saskatchewan leads with about 3.7 or 3.8 million acres. These numbers of seeded acres are the numbers from the last harvest, which happened in 2020, so August onwards. The lentil harvest is pretty much complete. I have divided green lentils into 3 categories and then red lentils, and that pretty much will summarize the presentation and will help you get some insights into what's happening in Canada. So when we talk about layered production, we had decent yields. We seeded about 973,000 acres. We had a 586,000 ton production. This is still estimates. I think by December we'll know exactly what the production was, but give or take, it'll be plus minus 50,000 from here. As per Statistics Canada and industry, there was a little bit of a carry, but we don't, as a trade and an independent company, we didn't see that 55,000 ton carry. But just to make things fair and there is no biases here, 55,000 ton is the carry based on Statistics Canada. This is the richly production. We don't grow a lot of richlies in Canada. Canadian farmers love growing the big layered lentils because it has a worldwide demand pattern from Europe to South America to India to North Africa. Layers have been in serious demand for the past 30 years. We are proud to say that 95% of the layered production or the green lentil production in terms of layered is done in Saskatchewan. So when it comes to green lentils, the world has to look to Canada. 29,000 tons of production and 11,000 carry. It's a very small number. Estins is the other major green lentil crop, is the small variety which even gets consumed in some parts of India. Calcutta is one of them, and sometimes South India, depending on the price parity and the demand patterns. We seeded about 265,000 acres, and we expect the yields to be producing about 16 to 1,700 bushels. This is again Statistics Canada. It's on the higher side. Given if we take that number, the production was close to 200,000 tons, with a very small 20,000 ton carry. This is your green lentil summary. We seeded about 900,000. We started with about 812 if you combine the layered lentils, the Estins, and the Richleys, with a carry of 89. It gives you about 900,000 tons. We'll need about 100,000 to 150,000 tons for seed waste and other things for the coming planting in April, May, June, and we expect to export about 750,000 tons to various markets in the world, which will leave us with a carry of 97,000 tons. Now, given this, the S&D looks pretty balanced on green lentils, which means that the Canadian farmer is in no hurry of selling green lentil at this point in time. As a matter of fact, about 25% to 30% of the green lentils are already committed. And I think once we have the September and October export numbers and November export numbers, we'll see close to 200,000 tons being already shipped out of Canada. So from that perspective, we in Canada or different parts of the world don't see a downside. And the Canadian farmer has been relentlessly stubborn of not participating in the prices when they come down. This is a snapshot. We expect India to import about 91,000 tons this coming year on green lentils. I don't know if that's part of Rakesh's number of 0.75, but we expect about 90 to 100,000 tons of imports. It was already being heavily exported to India in the last 6 months due to the shortages in tur and the supply required in the southern market for layered into different tenders and different Horeca markets. Other than India, Colombia, Algeria, Ecuador, Brazil, and then a lot of other countries. So this gives you a number of about 900,000 tons could be exported if we keep going and the demand pattern continues. Now, this is where I think everyone's interested, and I think everyone's eyes would have lit up. As per Statistics Canada, and so this number has been an average of what Statistics Canada says, what StatPub says, what industry says, and what us on the ground think is a legitimate average of all these numbers. The seeded acreage was 2.9. We had an 80,000 ton carry. I highly doubt it, but let's say that we had a 80,000 ton carry and leave it there. We expect the production to be around 1.95 million tons, the total production, and the yields were about 1,500 bushels to an acre. Now, if you look at the yields, we have taken the higher side of the last 2 years yield. That means the crop conditions and the growing conditions were well. And the harvesting time was one of the best we have seen in a long time. With that, we expect, so the total supply available would be about 2 million tons, out of which about 220,000 tons is going to go to feed waste and domestic use. I think that number is even higher, given there are 4 or 5 major splitting plants in Canada as well, and there is a consumption pattern within Canada on RSL into different food manufacturers and distribution companies, which number I think could easily go up to 300,000 tons. This is so we expect to export about 1.7 million tons in the coming year from September 2020 to August or July 2021. This will include about 600,000 to 700,000 tons of exports to India. If that happens, our carry at the end of next year would be 110,000 tons. If the 80,000 ton number, which the industry thinks there was a carry, is not there, and if there is any spike in demand from any major countries and this 1.7 becomes 1.8, then I think we will be a negative carry. And I don't know where Canada is going to get its lentils from to export more than 1.7 million tons. This is a breakup of the top 5 countries we are expecting. So I apologize. The 2019, 2020 should be 2020, 2021. It was an error on my side. I forgot to correct. These last column is the number for the coming year, which is 2020 September. So we expect India to buy about 680,000 tons. That could definitely go up and down of 100,000 tons. We expect Turkey with a short crop and demand picking up. And of course, we all heard that the duty reduced into Turkey just yesterday. So I think Turkey might even cross 325,000 tons. If you put these two markets together and with the expectation of a short Ethiopia crop, I think Dubai would become an even more aggressive player, and the demand from Sudan keeps on increasing. Saudi Arabia has been quite active in buying lentils from Dubai millers. So if this was the scenario, I think we will look at close to a 1.8 million ton export, which will pretty much clean up everything which we have in Canada. That means the carry will go away. We even lentils from the basement will have to come out to ship that kind of tonnage. So this is the total lentil production. And just to guys give you a snapshot, this includes the green and the reds, about 4.2 million acres, 169,000 ton of carry, which is, if you look at the carry, this has been the lowest carry we have seen in the last 3 years. So the lowest carry means the farmers are in no hurry to participate into any market. The year has just started, and we expect the total lentil exports from August to December would be in the ballpark of 500,000 to 700,000 tons. It's a very significant number. It could even reach 1 million tons till December, end of December. So if you look at that number can easily is self-explaining that the demand has been quite substantial and strong from every corner of the globe. There's a snapshot. We expect at the end, if everything remains, if there are no surprises from Turkey, if there are no surprises from a short Ethiopia crop, and India remains a consistent market of about 600,000 to 700,000 tons, we would expect a carry of 151, which is of course going to be a very small and a very low carry, given that Canadian farmers are used to carrying 800 plus thousand tons of lentils. These are the total lentil exports. This is a pie chart of how the production of lentil looks like. 42% was reds, 23% was leads, 10% was richlies, and about 15% was estins. Thank you, Anurag. I think I've covered everything. And if you have any questions, we can start now, or we can wait for the end.
Thank you so much, Rav. I believe you've given a lot of information. So just to summarize and to reconfirm from you, so for red lentils, as per your numbers, almost about 40% of it has been traded already on the books by the Canadian farmers.
On the red lentils?
Yes.
I think yes.
So, and what is the take right now amongst the farmers? Are they interested to sell, or they do not want to sell at current values? They would like to wait and see higher markets. What do you see the Canadian farmer thinking of currently?
So I have to give you a little bit of pre-context, and I'll take 1 or 2 minutes, Anurag, to explain
Sure.
you and all the attendees. So if you look at the carry numbers for the last 2-3 years, it has been up in excess of 800,000 tons. So given that we didn't have a bigger carry going into the crop, the Canadian farmer, of course, was not interested to panic sell. Harvest came, the prices tried to come down, but there was no participation from the Canadian farmer at those levels. There was some participation, but there was no aggressive participation. Coming into the harvest, the Canadian farmer had pretty much pre-committed 1/3 of their crop anyways into different markets, India being one, Turkey being the other, Bangladesh, Colombo, UAE. So 1/3 of the crop gone, that means 32-33%. And at harvest, I think another 10-15% of the crop was committed, and the market kept on moving higher and higher and higher, of course, dominated by a reduction in a duty in India, demand picking up from Bangladesh, then duty reduction in Turkey. So imagine you're a farmer and you're hearing India reduces duty, Turkey reduces duty, you don't have a big carry, your production is in the bin, 1/3 of your production is sold. And due to COVID, there have been a lot of programs from the government to support the cash cycle to the farmer. So he's flushed with cash, and he's flushed with deferrals on some of the payments, may it be equipment payments, may it be some of the other payments. And it was done by the federal government and the provincial government to support the farmers through the COVID situation. So combined all that, I think Canadian farmer will not participate aggressively till April, after India crop situation is clear. Whatever he had to sell, he has. There has been spot demand from Turkey and other markets. And I think even if Canadian farmer has to take a 500,000 ton carry into the next year, he's pretty committed. So we don't expect any downside, at least till March, on the lentil prices in Canada. On the contrary, we expect a spike of about $100 if the demand from Turkey and Bangladesh and other markets pick up. So right now, I think the prices are hovering around 600 to 625 CNF major countries. It can either become an illiquid market, it depends on our Australian friends if they come aggressive. If they come aggressive, Canadian farmers are going to back off, and all the pressure is going to go to Australia, and the Australian exporters and the farmers will not be able to take it. And if, let's say, Australia is not an aggressive player, then we might see a spike of $100 because the Canadian farmer is just not going to let it go.
Understood. So you are basically bullish the Canadian markets, and I believe, as per your version, the other destinations who have been playing the waiting game, seeing that the Indian duties could maybe increase in January and defer the purchases and see the origin, especially Canada, going down, it would be stupid on the part of other origins. Am I correct?
It will be if they. I do not see any bullish or bearish sentiment. I want to keep it a very. I want to just give you the facts and let people decide if it should be bullish or bearish. We are a supply chain manager at the end of the day. We don't care where the lentil price is. We make our margins through our supply chains through at different price points. So as an exporter, we would like to see the market stable and the participation from the farmer to keep our supply chains filled with product. But given what is happening and we are not able to procure enough lentils for the supplies required at the price the market wants, sometimes it just it is pointing that the Canadian farmer is not letting loose on the lentils.
Agreed. Another serious concern which lately we have all been reading is the acute shortage of containers, especially in North America for the export of agri products. So what do you see with regard to this shortage of containers? Do you think the destinations will be short supplied and there will be concerns, especially because of COVID concerns, these container issues snowballing further, or do you see some respite coming forward?
So necessity is the mother of all inventions, and every disaster brings the best out of humans. So if there is a problem on containers, there was a problem of containers and logistics. I think for the last 15 years, I have been in Canada in this business. So every year it's a different problem. Yes, there is a problem, Anurag, and it's a legitimate problem. The shipping lines are looking at their profitability and they want to restructure a lot of trade lanes, because at the end of the day, they need to make the money, and they're looking at their interest. I think there will be a short knee-jerk effect of some short container shortages that happened in March, April too, when COVID was just picking up and the imports were down. But I think the shipping lines just will find a way. When there is demand, the price of containers might move up by $5-10. I think Australia is going to face a similar situation on the container side. But I think if the demand dies down, the shipping lines are going to realize if the demand keeps at these current levels, then we'll keep on shipping. But to summarize, yes, there is a problem, but it's not a problem where it cannot be resolved.
Understood. Thank you so much. Thanks so much once again, Brad. And now, last but not the least, my dear old friend, Peter, welcome to you. And just to give a background about Peter to all of us present with us this evening, Peter Wilson is the Managing Director of Wilson International Trade, which is a business focused on providing superior services to the global agribusiness. Peter has held board, C-suite, and senior trading positions for listed and private international trading and logistics companies in Australia and Canada. Peter is immediate past chair and board member of Pulse Australia Limited, which is charged with developing the Australian pulse industry by improving market access and improving supply chain efficiency. He also sits on the Global Pulse Confederation Executive Committee. Peter is also a board member of Regional Development Australia, Darling Downs and Southwest, which is responsible for determining strategy for the region regarding development, sustainability, and resilience. Peter holds a postgraduate qualification in agribusiness from Monash University, and he has also lectured in agribusiness and risk management subjects at the University of Queensland. Peter maintains a keen interest in family farming business on the Darling Downs in southern Queensland. He is married to Sonia and is blessed with 3 beautiful children. And I've had the pleasure of having an excellent dinner with Sonia and Peter. And I can tell you, ladies and gentlemen, he's such a gracious, host, and I need to thank him again and again. Welcome, Peter. Please do come in and share with us your views about the Australian lentils.
Well, that's quite the introduction, Anurag ji. So namaste, namaskar, salam alaikum, hello, and g'day to everybody who's tuning in. Can I congratulate the India Pulses and Grains Association for this innovative approach to getting information out into the global marketplace. So we've seen enormous innovation in terms of responding to COVID, and of course COVID and 2020 is we'll be all looking for the end of that, or I think we're all looking forward to 2021, and we hope that it's going to be better than the last 10 or so months around the world. But I think it's brought out the best. I think it's definitely made us a lot more creative, and hopefully some of the changes, the positive changes, and certainly how we're communicating, how we're getting documentation sent around the world, hopefully some of those sort of things that maybe should have happened 20 years ago are with us for the future, and we are prepared as an industry to become, on an ongoing basis, very creative in what we're doing. I'll just open up my little presentation here. It won't be very long, so we'll see how we go. So really, just as an opener, Australia, as many of you will know, is a highly volatile country in terms of weather. We are the driest continent on the planet, and so our farmers have to be very, very creative in managing moisture. So from an Australian farmer's perspective, it is all about managing moisture. It is our greatest limiting resource. And therefore, we have done some amazing things with regards to husbandry on farm, and obviously plant genetics. So we take our hats off to the breeders. And I heard earlier some reference made to the new seeds for India. And I think the work that plant breeders and agronomists and people who get that information out to producers wherever they are have done a magnificent job in pulses. Pulses are a much more competitive agronomic crop today than they were when I started in this business almost 30 years ago. So it's a credit to those people, and they're largely unsung heroes. No one talks about them at grain trading conferences, but it is absolutely important that we keep that supply chain of new genetics coming through, because it betters all of humanity. So we started our season, with the exception of my home state of Queensland, very, very well. We had a very good opening break, and we will be looking at very, very high yields across the board of most pulses. Anywhere, New South Wales, Victoria, South Australia, West Australia, will all be looking at very good crops, and we would expect to probably take out some records on some desi chickpea yields, and bean yields, and some lentil yields as well, just given the way the season has progressed. I'll just go to the next. So this is my orientation slide. This is to ensure that people know that where I come from, we have the best beaches in the world, and in Southern Australia is where we have the best red lentils in the world. And really, it has been a very good season, and we will be just starting to get into what we call the gut slot of harvest in the next few weeks. I expect most farmers in probably the southern part of our grain belt that runs from Western Australia right through to the East Coast, they will be spending Christmas on combine harvesters, because it's a very big crop. It's a slow process when yields are high, and I can assure you, I was in northern New South Wales just earlier this week. I have never seen so many heavy trucks on the road hauling grain, north and south. Just an amazing amount of activity going on here in Australia right now. yields are very, very good. And I guess to pick up some of the points that Rav made, you know, I think that we've seen some significant changes in the way business is getting done, and may well have been driven in part by the aggressive policies that Prime Minister Modi implemented in India. I think it's driving a market that, to use a cricket terminology, we're all playing the ball off the wicket. We're not playing the ball out of the bowler's hand at the present time, which makes planning very, very difficult. And to Rakesh's point about the impact it does have on position when governments take decisions that are not expected, or they're extreme on the continuum of expectations. So as a result, the only way to manage that risk is to be very, very careful and to keep your positions on a short lead. The other thing that's been occurring over 30 years in Australia is the Australian farmers' capacity to hold product on farm, and we see the same thing in Canada. We've got very, very good storage. We can keep the grain in pristine conditions throughout the 12-month period. We no longer see major harvest pressure. So again, to Rav's comment, it's probably not likely that we'll see Australian farmers dump red lentils over harvest. They have the capacity to hold. They have the financial capacity to hold. So we will probably see the market again only be trading in a sort of 6 or 12-week type window, and that may well drive a little bit more stability into the marketplace. Logistics are very tight here, and again, that's keeping people very defensive in terms of just how aggressive they get on pricing. Just very quickly, you know, Australia is proving to be quite consistent in its planted area. Some of our yields fluctuate mightily given the droughts, certainly over the last couple of years. But we have probably underestimated output in Australia statistically for some time, and we are playing a little bit of catch up in terms of getting those numbers closer to, I guess, reconciling with export data. We are producing largely just the red lentils here in Australia, and we are producing a medium. We produce at one end a larger type lentil, which is a jumbo, and then we are more into the mediums. About 30% of the crop would be classified medium and large, and the balance is a nipper type, which of course is very highly favoured in markets such as Bangladesh, a little bit in Calcutta, a little bit in Egypt, and we will probably see Turkey be a major destination this year for Australian nipper type lentils. So the reality is that we are probably looking at a crop this year anywhere around, just got to move my slide here. You know, our crop could be over 800,000 tonnes. Certainly many people calling it the high 700s. And in many ways, I'm putting a little bit extra on the crop because I think we have underestimated area and yield over the past few years, and therefore we could actually end up with a significant output compared to the last 3 years. So we might, whether we get to a 16, 17 type output, we'll have to wait and see. But I expect we'll see some very good results and a pretty good crop in Australia, which means we're in a good position to have a consistent export program over 12 months. Clearly for us, destination markets are very, very important. We are a trading nation. We are very focused on maintaining good relations with these countries on a macro level. And then our trading relationships are very, very important. So Bangladesh is the big game in town, which is where the bulk of our nipper lentils do go to. India, you can see, even though with the tariffs in place, we've still been managing to keep touch with that Indian market. And hopefully we see the tariff regime maybe extended into January. It's very hard for people to put product on the water in a very short window when governments change their policy sort of midstream, just because it ended up being December 31 probably didn't change a lot of potential for Australian shippers to be flexible and switch shipments. Sri Lanka, very, very important, largely taking medium and larger, the larger style of lentil, and then right through the balance of the markets, all very, very important. We see, and we're likely to see Turkey, I think, play a little bit more of a role this year, given that it's not that long since they harvested, and we're certainly seeing them probe around our market for offers. So I agree with Rav. I think we're going to see reasonably stable markets here in the next little while, and in particular, the logistics is keeping people from doing anything silly, and the farmer, he and she, they're very, very happy to hold product on farm. So I think that probably summarises the Australian scenario, Anurag ji. So I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you so much, Peter. It was really informative. And I need some clarity from you again with regard to logistics. As I discussed with Rav, do you see the same issue in Australia as well? That is the dearth of containers and higher freight rates?
Yeah, and I think it will get resolved through higher freight rates. I mean, talking to people in the market, anybody who took a forward position on a CFR basis is definitely seeing their margins eroded with, 8 to 12 US dollar hikes in food quality containers, and the shipping lines are doing it because they can. The containers, the blank shipping, the insecurity around cargo movement as a result of the COVID fallout, and of course imports are down on a lot of goods, which means that if imports are down, those containers aren't coming in full, then to be emptied and then to be filled with agri products to go out. So they're having to reposition empty containers, and of course, it's going to the highest bidder. So yeah, logistics are absolutely on the front of people's minds. And then on the other side, if you take a bulk vessel position, the farmer is laying over some of the trade. The farmer's not necessarily playing ball just to ensure that you can fill a 20 or 30,000 tonne bottom. So logistics I think are driving discipline through these markets. Anurag.
Peter, what would your view be on the pricing for nuggets and nippers currently, and how much of the crop would you think would be sold by now, and predominantly into which markets?
Well, predominantly, obviously, Bangladesh is taking a lot. I think that what's sold, it's probably going to mirror what's been done out of Canada. So I think that we probably see somewhere between 25 and 30%. The farmers have been very defensive. Last year we had some very poor yields around the place. People didn't get a lot of joy out of having sold crops early. They saw prices move against them. And the other thing that we're seeing here, we've got very strong stock feed markets. And the last couple of years, any time the pulses get, deemed a little cheap, a lot of the farmers that are producing lentils in particular are also producing sheep. And sheep are like gold at the present time. So these people have got no problems at all feeding lentils to sheep. So there's not a big gap between current pricing and where stock feed would likely work. So I'd say 25-30% of the crop is probably traded, and it's really only just starting to move now.
And what are the current values, say, for nippers and nuggets?
Nippers have been going through in that sort of early 600s on a CFR basis, and Bangladesh has been very active. We're seeing Pakistan range finding as well, and so I think there's been some pretty good activity from a range of markets in the last couple of days with the duty changes in Turkey. We're seeing the Turks start to get involved, and I believe some business has already been done into that destination. So, yeah, the great thing is there's a reasonably broad destination market for Aussie Reds.
Another thing, Peter, which I wanted to know from you, since you'd be the best person to ask, a lot of trade which was done earlier basis new crop shipment into India, that is November and December shipments, especially for nuggets and nipples. I'm hearing that a lot of it is being asked to be diverted or washed out because people are anticipating a duty hike from the 1st of January. Have you heard about such requests for the diversions as well as for washouts?
I would have thought that, I think the difficulty is probably from an Australian perspective is that, you know, we're not going to have a lot of new crop red lentils hit vessels in November. And if the harvest gets delayed because it's a big crop, then maybe people are concerned about hitting that DC31 arrival window. So, you know, I think that, you know, I'm not seeing a lot of that that diverting or washouts. I mean, there's always problematic issues in the markets where we've seen forward business done based on LCs into key destinations where the market is lower than where some of that forward business was done, and we're definitely seeing some challenges there. But overall, you know, I don't think people have taken massive positions based on India because there's no profit in taking a long-term purchase or sale based on what the Indian government may or may not do. So people have been, I think, just focused on the other markets where there is better transparency.
So I think Rav would be happy this morning because you have confirmed that the Aussie farmer also is under no pressure. He is equally adept in holding on to his stocks. He has no dearth of money, and he's got a lot of support from the provincial as well as the federal government. Am I correct, Peter?
Yeah, I think the other thing to watch is China here. We're having a little bit of, there's a few challenges with China. We've obviously had some issues with barley. Now, I always say in all markets, prices are a function of more markets more often give you better price stability. So if we lose some key products into markets such as China, and they're talking about wheat at the present time, and that's about a 3 or 4 million tonne market. So if we do see some pressure in the outside markets, be it cereals or oilseeds, then, you know, we might see farmers, you know, rush to price pulses and look to store some other products that they've produced. So, you know, China is worth watching here, and particularly given the fallout of the presidential election, we don't really know what that's going to mean for relationship with China and how China responds. And you know, from an agri perspective here in Australia, we're very nervous about you know, when China sneezes, we get COVID because they are massive business partners for Australia along a range of primary industries.
Thanks, Peter. I think you've summed up and spoken well about the Australian markets. And now to open the house to all the questions which we've been getting this evening from our viewers. Just to begin, Rav, this is a question for you, which has been directed. And the gentleman here wants to know that Turkey predominantly imports into the free trade zone with zero duty, as it is a large exporter of red split lentils as well as football lentils. So this current reduction of duty, what do you think, how much impact should it have on the Canadian markets?
So again, reiterating the fact that the duty is more of a sentimental thing. And yes, there is, Turkey is mostly imports, they split it and then they export to neighboring countries and that trade flows. But the reason that the duty has been reduced, the Turkey government has reduced the duty, that means that maybe they want to bring the inflation under control, or they didn't see a lot of production for Turkey market itself. So yes, it's predominantly a trade through, but how do you go and explain this to the Canadian farmer? And what arguments are you going to make? The Canadian farmer getting all these messages is just not going to buy that story that it's zero rated and it'll go just flow through. Though it can hold a lot of logic and it has a lot of fact behind it, that yes, the situation is such that they come in and go, but it's very hard to explain it to the Canadian farmer.
Thanks. I think that was well explained. Another question which we have from one participant is for Singh Saab. Singh Saab, the person asked that can we assume that the government has asked NAFED to maintain prices above MSP near harvest season so that the government need not intervene and buy? We would ask for your views on this, sir.
In fact, no one needs to ask on this. In fact, that's the very ideal situation which should happen for every crop, every season. And that is the best situation when the market pays to the farmers the MSP. And we are an implementing agency of the price support scheme only to ensure MSP in the event of market rates falling below MSP. So that very well explains the role of NAFED.
Understood, sir. Thank you. Another question, and this time to Peter. The gentleman here wants to know that he has heard this season that Australia will be having a hallmark grade of lentils. Is it as good as nugget or totally a different variety? Could you just shed some light on this, please?
Okay, so structurally, hallmark is probably a little fatter than nugget, but as with many pulses that we produce both here and around the world, rainfall can also change the ultimate size. I would think this year, given that we've had a reasonably good year, and I haven't seen any new crop samples yet, but I would think given the year has been reasonable, then we're probably going to see hallmark closer to a fat nugget than we are going to see it a nipper type, if that makes sense. So I would think it'll get binned. Segregation will be at a premium. If it looks like it will perform similarly to nugget, then it'll likely get binned, because what you will see is nugget will be a little bit plumper and bigger. So, I think that it's probably going to work all right. And then in other years, it may well be closer to a nipper style, but there's a view that it might football pretty well because of its overall shape. But it looks good.
Another thing, Peter, since you are here, out of this 800,000 tons, 839 crop which you mentioned, how much of this would be nipper and how much of this would be nugget?
Yeah, it's a clear majority, which obviously we don't have in the US election. So it's probably, it could be 70, 75% nipper type, and the balance is made up. The next largest is the nugget type. Then you've got your jumbo, and then the flash style lentil sort of brings up the rear. So yeah, it's probably around 75%.
Thanks, Peter. One question which I have again from a gentleman here is with regard to, I think Rab would be better equipped to answer this. He says that with increased vegetarianism in the time of Corona and companies researching on pulses-based proteins and isolates, how much do you think would this affect the lentil markets?
It's a very good question. So there has been a lot of research going on the background. It started with the yellow pea protein extraction isolate, but it has moved into mung beans, it has moved into lentils, it has moved into chickpeas. What is happening is it's the applicability of the product and the taste. So for example, mung beans, there is a company called Just, which produces almost an egg-like variety from mung bean protein, and they can't use anything else. So there have been at least 5 to 6 major researches and applicability going on lentils and chickpeas. And I think in the near term, with this year and a half from now, a majority of products are going to roll out which will use lentil protein, because they just fit that applicability of that product and the taste and the texture. So if that ends up happening, of course, the production needs to go up to feed the world and to feed the new the plant-based protein initiative which is happening all around the world. Of course, after COVID, we have seen a big push against this, not only from North America, but Europe, even China now is getting into a vegetarian protein alternative. So I think in the next 2 to 3 years, the demand for extraction of protein from lentils and chickpeas could take about 20-25% of the crop out.
Just since you were here, how much of lentils do you think would go into protein extraction in Canada?
This year, I don't think a lot. There would be some feed and some pet feed demand for lentils, but I don't think this year any lentils are geared towards plant-based protein. As I said, there is research happening. The product needs to become applicable, and the product needs to become come into the market. And once that starts happening, this is about 2 to 2.5 years from now.
Thank you. Now, to sum up and to end the proceedings of the evening, I would like to know if any of our panelists would like to put in a few words before we sum up and end.
I have one.
Yes, please, sir. Come in. Do come in.
Mr. Rakesh Khemka, he just dropped one information which would be quite useful for everybody. He mentioned that with the distribution of chickpeas whole, the poor lentil consumers, they have shifted to consumption of chana whole. And it's a big Q reason. The area which consumes lentils, they're very price sensitive. The production which would be reported for chickpeas in the next season, even if there is a shortfall, there seems to be a demand shift from lentil to chickpeas. And that would balance out any kind of deficit which may astronomically build any price push during that time. And second, it would again balance out the chickpeas demand. The surpluses many times reported for chickpeas, that would also be taken care of. This is one output which I take for myself from this webinar. Thank you.
Anurag ji, I have a question for Sunil ji, if I may, please.
Yes, please.
Sure.
Sunil ji, thanks for all the inputs, and it's always a pleasure to meet you and see you.
We interacted in Canada.
That's right. Yes.
Yeah, I remember.
I just wanted to understand. So, if the prices of lentils are above MSP,
yeah,
and which I think the government wants, which I think is the best initiative for the farmer, the trade, and everything. If they hover about let's say 20% above MSP, which is about 60, 61, because I think what Indian government is walking a very thin line between consumers and the farmer. They want to protect both the interests. Is there a possibility, and you can choose to answer or maybe deflect this question, is there a possibility if the situation becomes a little worse from here, that the duty could be revised from 10% to 0 in the short term and then go back up? Is this even a possibility?
We don't see that situation where the prices would climb up to that level.
Okay.
With the production reported by Dr. Malhotra, the deficit seems to be only 3 lakh metric ton, 0.3 million metric ton. Therefore, I don't see any price jerk to warrant such a situation.
Yeah, but again, Sunilji, with all due respect, we are dealing with the agri commodities, right? So weather patterns and everything and harvest, like, of course, your numbers and your seeding report will point towards a 1.6. It's just a hypothetical question. And we all pray that nothing happens. If there was something to happen, is that even a possibility? If the production is there and there is no price gap and there is no price movement, of course, there is no point to bring the duty down. But if that was to happen in a very worst case scenario, would that be an option for the government, or they will never do that?
Let's see the brighter side of it.
I think that answers the question Dr. Malhotra, if you are here, we would like some words from you before we end our session this evening. Please do come in and give us some of your thoughts. Finally.
Thank you so much, Mr. Khemka ji. Yes, I enjoyed the discussion in between because I was busy on another conference because some important discussion was on, and even our Honorable Ministry of Commerce and Trade, he has also taken a view about the present situation of this pulses production. And he has also given a clear instructions that really we need to increase our own capacity. And now Ministry of Agriculture is also on the way to have a roadmap for such minor pulses crops. But in volume wise, I say that it's not now minor, but yellow pea, lentil, these are the crops which assume importance. So accordingly, we have worked out our strategy, and we have decided to cover about 5.5 lakh hectare area from Madhya Pradesh. This is our target which we have fixed. Then another we have again fixed about 5 lakh hectare area. We want that it should be covered from Uttar Pradesh, and about 1.8 lakh hectare area we want that the coverage should happen from the West Bengal. So this is the strategy we have focused on this one. Then we have northeastern region, not northeastern region exactly it is a eastern region where a lot of fallow land of rice is available. So we have a kind of estimation that some area will definitely come. Then another point is that without expansion, means without disturbing the crop ecosystem, we want to further enhance the area and production through intercropping and mixed cropping systems. So this is the approach which we are following. I know Mr. Kapoor also mentioned that this is a hypothetical and all other things. But anyway, whatsoever dream comes, that comes through hypothetication only. So hypothesis we need to have before us before we implement any of the program. So now we have a seed rolling plan, I'm telling you. So seed rolling plan, because there was a little deficit of the seed last year also, but this year we have a seed which is available with us, and we have made available all the seeds to the I should say the farmers, to the states. I remember I have written one letter to all of the state governments, and through that letter we have already 1.3 lakh mini kits have already reached to them. And farmers, they have started sowing, and we have given them mini kits of the high yielding varieties. So here 20,000 cluster demonstrations are now being made. So this is the first time this is happening now. So this is an intervention. So I hope that some good results will come. So since being an agriculture commissioner, my duty is to augment the production and productivity in the country, and we need to achieve the productivity-led growth rather than area-led growth. So this is a kind of interventions which we are following, and we are on the way to provide the solution to the problems to the farmers. That's also one of our strategy, and transfer of technology. These all are the things which are already in practice. So we are promoting two major crops as a part of mini mission. One is mustard, another is lentil. So these are the two crops for which we are now, Government of India is putting a focus. And you can even see our Doordarshan Kisan channel, where you can find that this mustard as well as this lentil is appearing, for which is carrying a clear message for the farmers. So this is a just these are the points which I wanted to share, because I'm not much strong in that part of trade, where but our Mr. Sunil Kumar, he has very appreciably, he has mentioned and he has already given his input from that angle, because it is our unique agency where we do a kind of procurement. But really this time it was a matter of worry for us when our carryover stocks depleted. But anyway, we want that this should not happen again. So these are our efforts which we are going to put into.
Thank you so much, Dr. Malhotra. That was really nice. And one last question before we end this evening. One of my friends has asked that, and I think Singh Saab, you can answer this pretty well. We have about 3 lakh tons stock at the various ports and about 1.5 lakh tons in the pipeline by way of imports, I think, before December. So post, and we have 4 months of consumption going forward. So that would mean we have a shortage of about 1.5 to 2 lakh tons. How do you think will we be able to bridge the gap, or will we have to import at an enhanced duty post 1st January? And vis-a-vis, do you see the local prices rising beyond 55 rupees in the month of maybe January or February? What would your final say be, sir?
Anurag, I'm not having the stock. Trade is having the stock. It knows at what rate they would like to offload. We have given the window. Window is there. Had it been our stock, I would have really answered you. But yes, I don't foresee that there should be a major concern on the price. And if such an event takes place, there are certain measures which can be taken up. But I for that matter, don't see that kind of crisis coming, and the kind of acreage and the kind of production level which Dr. Malhotra has mentioned, people would be a little cautious in taking positions.
And as you said that even at a price of anywhere between 55 to 60 rupees, if say the pulses price of chana as well as masoor goes up to those levels, there's nothing much to concern, because that would mean a price of 51 rupees minimum to the farmer at the farm grade. This is what the government would want. And even 15, 17, 18 or 20% above the MSP, the government would be comfortable. Am I correct?
Well, I wouldn't like to comment on that, because at the time of procurement, what we are concerned that the farmer should be paid the MSP. That's our concern. With your efficiency, if you can bring down your cost, you're most welcome. And that's your trade position that one takes.
Correct. Very correct. Thank you so much. Any other questions or views from any of the panelists? Rav, Peter, Singh Saab, Dr. Malhotra, Rakesh ji, any further last question or comment?
Thank you so much.
Then
we really enjoyed the webinar.
Then I would like to pack up for the evening with a lot of thanks to all of you, sir, for being present and giving your valuable time and input. And thanks once again to all the advertisers who supported us. And thanks a lot to all the viewers who have logged in from all corners of the world at all different times and giving us strength and support to people here at IPGA. We will be coming back with more topics, with more subject and with more knowledge under a knowledge series. And once again, good evening. Thank you. Goodbye to all of you. Thanks.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.